What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Phillip Stutts. This is Phillip's second time on the show, but for those of you who don't know him, he is the founder of Go Big Media and the founder of and CEO of Win Big Media, which is a corporate marketing agency. He's also a best-selling author and a highly sought-after speaker. In this episode, we actually do a deep dive on the future of marketing for companies, entrepreneurs, and what the trends are showing us and how we need to pivot in order to grow our business during this time of COVID-19. We also discuss a bit about the current political climate and what we can expect to see in the future and where it's going to go. I think you guys will really like that part. But this episode is full of game-changing information for you and your business. Tactical things you can put into play that will change the course for you guys in growth. Now, before we get to the episode, I want to remind you guys that Growth Now Movement Live is happening September 25 through 27 right here in Reading, Pennsylvania. So you want to make sure that you grab your tickets. Head over to gnmlive.com. Get your tickets now. Use the code podcast for a discount. I cannot wait to see you guys there. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Phillip Stutts. Phillip, I'm excited to have you back, man.
I'm excited to be here. We got a lot to talk about. Things are changing. Things are moving like crazy. And we have an ability to help people in this moment. Let's see how we can do it.
Yeah, man, it is a crazy time, which is why I reached out to you. I was like, dude, I'd love to have you back on. And then, you know, in this space, I then go do the research and I'm like, oh, well, he's been on quite a few podcasts lately, you know, Gary V and all these huge ones because you're the guy with the information, right? And I get your emails and you're one of the few people that I open your emails.
Thank you.
Them and it's got great information that is actionable and things that we need to hear. But why don't we
I don't sell anything either.
Yeah, which is why I open them, by the way.
I have no pitch. You're not in my funnel. I probably do the opposite of what everybody tells you to do, but I just like writing. I want to put out the stuff and we'll see what happens. I will say my subscriber list has tripled in the last 3 months compared to the last 3 years based on the data we'll discuss today and how it's helping businesses. I've had over 100 business owners reach out to me from hearing me on a podcast or a webinar. I've done a lot of private webinars and said they utilized the information I'm going to give your audience and that they've grown their business in a time they shouldn't be growing. And I'm going to give you a ton of examples of how you should use this data in your own business. So awesome. It's going to be effective. And my only ask is just use it. And share it and get it to as many people that need it as possible. We're business owners. We're not on the front lines of the healthcare movement. And right now we can only help other business owners. And this is why I love what you put out in the world, Justin. And let's see how we can do that today.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about the current climate, right? Like obviously they came out and they said, we're shutting down everything. You can't open up your business. You can't do business. People can't come in. You can't talk to people with social distance, put the mask on, do all these things. Then we already talked about you're in Florida. You're the lucky few.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the climate of that and what has it done for our economy truly? Because I see it back on the rise so quickly, but how did it affect our economy and why?
So let me give you some background on how we looked at this so I can answer that. So I can kind of give some data back proof in my response. This is not guessing, right? All I've ever done my whole career is analyze data and then come up with messages for clients to help them in that moment and based on what the data is telling us. To this point, I have a partnership with the largest data collection analytics AI company in America. We partnered with them right around the end of March to understand initially what consumer sentiment, what purchasing behavior was changing. We then commissioned another study at the end of April. We've just commissioned our third study here in June. You'll link the article I just wrote, basically giving the analysis of the third study. We've given all of this away. And all the data away. We've surveyed 16,853 American consumers across all demographic lines.
Wow.
We modeled it against our database of 200 million plus American consumers, 550 million connected devices that we're tracking, and we're tracking right now over 10 billion purchasing decisions by this database every day. And so we're getting at insights before anybody, any business owner, any marketer, anybody, and we're looking and seeing what changed. And so what we said, the most dramatic messaging shift I've ever seen in all 24 years of marketing. We saw that at the end of March. Now we're seeing things settle into place, and we're seeing what really is moving purchasing decisions, why consumers are moving it. What we saw in March was everybody coalesced around one message, which was around, if you're a business, and I always say this, it was the end of the Instagram influencer economy, that if you were out there showing your ass cheeks or your big abs and saying, buy this watch, and you got paid 10 grand to do it and got a bunch of free products, that economy, it's not like it's 100% over, but it's like 80% over.
Right.
And because nobody sitting at home in quarantine wants to see somebody living a great life, wants to see somebody saying, you could be like me. Nobody wants to see that anymore. That is gone, and that's not going to come back. Yeah. And the reason it's not going to come back is whether COVID-19 progresses or regresses, data is telling us that the American consumer is really not going to feel comfortable until there's a vaccine. And we are at minimum 12 months away from a vaccine. We're just at minimum.
Yeah.
And so let's say we get a vaccine in 12 months. How long does it take to vaccinate 319 million Americans, much less 7 billion humans? It's going to take years. And people are going to be like, I'm not taking that vaccine. I'm not putting that in my body. And then you're going to live with this for another 2 to 3 years at a minimum. And then after that, what's the PTSD of everything we've gone through, of people dying, of hospitals that got overrun and then went out of business because they didn't have any other patients? Right. What's going to happen to consumers who were affected by this and stayed at home? And maybe there's a second bump of this next winter. What we just don't know. Everybody's living in a lot of fear right now. And so this is a new economy. This is not a new normal. There is no normal. It's just a new economy. And if you can understand that, then you can win and take advantage of it. And so really, the reason that we are seeing the economy come back is obviously we're seeing the reopening of the economy, and it's in every state. So like for our clients in March and April, we were running one message about how these products or services that we represented for our clients represented safety and trust and helping others in the economy, because that's what the data said.
Right.
What we're seeing now is a shift away from helping others. It's crazy. We're not seeing as many people die. Hospitals aren't overrun. The news media has moved on to the next hot topic. And so the helping others has subsided. People are now thinking about themselves more than they are others. And so what we're seeing is an elevated message of safety. In fact, 54% of all women right now are buying strictly on a message that makes them feel safe. And so What do I mean by that? I'll give you a couple examples. And we're seeing this, by the way, with men. But what I would tell you with men is that they are regressing back to some of their old message purchasing values of independence and achievement. They think it's funny. Men think the economy will be fully back in 3 months. Most women believe the economy won't be back until 2021. So that you can understand how those two messages are diverging right now. Although men are certainly buying on safety as a huge factor. So no matter what you're messaging to clients right now, you still have to include safety, a message of safety. So what does that mean? Let me give you a couple examples. Coca-Cola ran an ad campaign in late 2019 that said, "Open a Coke, open happiness." Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Right now, and by the way, Coca-Cola is a data company, whether you believe it or not. They're not a soft drink company. They're a data company. So
Right.
They already know this, right? So they're running an ad campaign right now that's like, staying apart is the best way to stay united, right? It's about safety, right? And making you feel good. We have a title company, a $1 billion real estate title company that we work with. They're B2B. They're serving the real estate market. And our messages have been around virtual closings and drive-by closings, so they can go through basically like a drive-through and do all their closings at all their offices. And we've seen a 50% increase amongst real estate agents pushing business to them.
Wow.
We work with a B2C e-com organic food company. And targeting the right audience with the right message. And we did an A/B test. We targeted New York, and we were able to get the data of people that only are vegan, vegetarian, and buy organic products. We did the same test in LA as an A/B test, Los Angeles, where their COVID-19 had not spiked. And we saw a 25% increase in ROI in the New York market because that resonated more with them. We have a law firm in New York that we work for. We 6x their non-referral clients because we've been running ads on safety everywhere. And so, about, hey, we're trying to keep you safe. If your building or your job is not protecting you, call us, right? Everything in our messaging is about safety. I'll go back to this, on the e-com organic food company. I'm going to look at the messages right now because I just got back the results. What we found, the messages that work were messages like this: don't compromise your family's health with toxic products. Another one that was a high ROI for us was horrified by ingredients in your skincare products, ? We make safe, natural, plant-based products that support immunity. And those are the two highest performing messages we ran for that particular brand.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so when you're talking about, we have this view of safety, what's your take on how quickly do business owners have to hit this, and how long do you feel this trend is going to last?
Well, with all the protests, we're now measuring and taking into account all the protests over the last couple of weeks, right? I've had so many of all the shows I've gone on, and all these business owners are like, what do I need to know now? And I'm like, well, you're going to see this spike in all the protests and COVID-19. But what I'm more concerned about is, when does it settle down? And then what is that baseline that carries us through a certain amount of time? Right. And so what I can tell you without we haven't released the Black Lives Matter consumer data. We probably won't for a few more weeks. But what I'm already seeing is that safety, this message of safety, is even heightened even more. That whether you are an African-American consumer or you're a white consumer or whatever, everybody is a little nervous right now. They're all a little scared about their safety. Everybody. I'm not making a judgment on anything because, boy, oh boy, I know so many people who have been put out to pasture in their business and as an influencer because they haven't responded appropriately to this message. So I get that. I understand that. I'm advising people right now on this. I think if you can, if you can understand how important, if you're selling a product or service, how important safety is right now. If you're dealing with the protests, I will tell you there's a simple way to crush it right now. It is, if you're a brand or business trying to figure out how to address the situation. I have had, again, people who have been X'd out because they didn't put up a black box on Instagram the other day. Yeah. And I have advised all the businesses that talk alone is cheap. You need to show the public what you are doing, what you've done, and what you're going to do in the future with actions, not I walked in a protest and I put up a black box. That is cheap. That is inauthentic. That is doing what everybody else is doing. You're following the same path as everybody else. What you need to do, and the way I've lived my own life, and I never have talked about it, I don't want to talk about it, is I've been on the front lines of the inequality movement for 20 years. Getting my hands dirty, fighting and helping other people in this movement. And instead of just putting up a black box and hoping it goes away, Why don't you go show what you're going to do in a substantive manner to improve the lives that are of inequality, of people that are under inequality right now. And so that's a lane nobody's in. Everybody's just trying to check a box, which is so ridiculous right now.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because I did the black box thing. I also then did a video talking about, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to support. What can I do?
Sure.
And in that video, I received a lot of private messages saying, we appreciate you saying you don't know. And you're asking, what can I do? But again, it still wasn't that much feedback. It wasn't.
Yeah, but you're being authentic. I'm okay with that. And I don't mind the black box, but have something. You can't just put up a black box and flex your muscles. The Instagram influencer economy, that's what they're doing right now. And people see through this. You don't think people see through all the black boxes with no other substantive decisions behind it? And so I didn't put the black box up because I want my actions to speak louder than my words. But here's the thing. It's not, I don't mind it. You just talk alone is cheap. You have to do something. And that's what I'm employing businesses that we're working with right now to tell people that story of what they've done to help others that have faced inequality.
What are you seeing that people should be doing at this point? I know you said you've been doing it for 30 years. What are other things people can do right now as business owners to show support?
I'll give you some of my story, but I'll tell you about some clients as well, which I haven't talked about, and I'm reluctant to, but I feel like if people can learn from this in the moment, maybe I should, right? It also feels like by talking about it, you're like, oh, I have black friends, and like, I hate that, right?
Right.
But we work with companies that have donated millions of dollars to charities that help people in the inequality movement. They need to talk about that. They need to talk about how they're going to do even more going in the future. They need to talk about how their teams have volunteered time to help those people. For me, in 2000, I did the Big Brothers Big Sisters program for 10 years. I took 2 kids every weekend of my life in inner city Washington, D.C. Every weekend from the time I was 26 to 36, I went and spent 4 to 20 hours a weekend with these kids. When one of the kids' mom said she didn't want him anymore, my wife and I went, oh my God, we got to adopt him. We started the adoption process. Then she pulled back at the last minute because she realized she'd lose her check. My wife and I then became certified foster parents in Washington, D.C. I worked on the front lines of the education movement, the education reform movement, charter schools, vouchers, in inner city New Orleans, inner city Washington, D.C. since 2003. And I've donated a lot of money. And those are my actions. And those are going to continue to be my actions going forward. But if I was just to put up a black box and clear my hands, I think people see through that.
Sure. No, I agree. And obviously don't do what the guy from CrossFit did.
I saw he got in trouble, but for me, I turned off the news, so I don't even know.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't watch the news.
Yeah, what he did.
But I saw it. Everybody went crazy, and I have a number of friends who own gyms, and I just looked into it, and I was like, all right, that's something you don't do as a CEO of a gym.
What'd he do? Tell me. You got to tell me.
Somebody had posted something about the protest affecting businesses and stuff like that, and his response was Floyd-19.
What does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
So essentially, COVID-19. So George Floyd is his last name. Floyd.
Yeah. I know that. I got it.
Yeah, and so it was like this whole thing, and then he didn't back down. There was no backing down from any of that. He was responsible.
Well, the mob's going to come get you, and actually, in 3 minutes, nobody's going to actually care what he said.
Right, and that's the reality.
That's the reality.
I agree, man. And I love what you're saying is like, look, take action. Like there's so much, and this whole, and really what this conversation is, be authentic. Like these Instagram influencers and their fake jets and all these things they're quickly being shut out because they're not being authentic, right?
That's right.
So go help. As a business, go help. How can you truly show that people are safe and helping? And so what else are you seeing that people
let me just say this. You know how many business owners came to me in the last few years and said, I've built my business on safety, trust, and helping others. And I can't get any traction right now because the loudest voice in the room is the one that is sitting there saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. You can be rich like me. You can have this product and look good like me. Everything. They were the loudest voices in the room. And I tell business owners now they're dead. And your moment is right now. And by the way, the ad rates are as cheap as they've been in years.
Right.
They're sitting in the corner, sucking their thumb and in the fetal position. And I'm like, what are you doing? And it doesn't mean that they're going to go 10x their business. If for an e-commerce client, if I can 10x people into customer or potential customers into a retargeting pool and build a relationship, and then when those people decide and understand that if we can convert a larger amount of those people and the lifetime value of that company increases by 20%, I'm going to crush it over the next 10 years for that client. They're going to grow their business higher than they've ever grown it. But what people do is they retreat in fear.
Right.
And this is not the moment to retreat. This is the moment to go all in, shove all your chips on the table. The reason the economy is coming back is people got their government checks. They got their $1,200, $2,400, $3,600 check. The stock market rebounded. The PPP loan, so people that own businesses were able to keep employees. All of this created money in the economy. It created a little bit of confidence because people had money in their bank accounts. Right. Or if they lost their jobs, like a lot of people in the restaurant industry did, they got unemployment, which was equal or slightly less or more than what they had before. And so then when the economy opened up, the jobs started coming back, and people have this money and they're going to spend it because we know the average American saves. This is before COVID. The average American has $400 in savings. And so you're going to see people spend money. Now, my prediction is that when we hit the fall, that's when you see people pulling back a little bit more because school is starting back. Summertime is over. People always spend more money in summertime. The data says this. And so if you're a business and you haven't gone for it yet, you're going to miss your window, man, right? It may sustain through the fall, but we're never going to have the bull run that we had from 2008 to 2020. We'll never have it. We're going to see a lot more ups and downs over the next few years. And so you got to figure out what lane you're going to get in, if you're going to let fear overcome this, or you're going to follow the data and go for it.
Yeah, and it's so funny. You talk about spending money. I just moved, and I'm spending more money on furniture than I ever thought I would in my life. And every day there's a new delivery of something, or multiple things every single day. Actually, right before we hopped on this call, we just got our patio furniture. But
patio furniture is so cheap.
It is. It was a cheap purchase, which is nice. Good. But the dining room set wasn't.
Typically, it's not.
But it was crazy. So people are now spending money, which it's funny because when I look at 2008, and I was still young, I was still like new and even to working as an adult in 2008. But I lost my job in 2008 and had to go on to the next one. But the people who succeeded were the people who went all in, people who didn't play scared. Are you seeing that trend now with this? Is that what we all need to do?
Yeah. I mean, like we work for a national pest control company. And again, think about this. What people are buying is people are buying out of need, not want. They don't want things. They need things. And they want to make sure people are evaluating their purchasing behavior right now based on safety. But safety is like, well, do I need this? Is it going to keep me safe? Right? They're not saying, ooh, I need another watch. I want that. Or, oh, I'm going to get me a fancy car. I want that, No, they're not doing that at all. Right. And so that's where the economy is right now. And so like with our pest control company, we work for a national chain. And we said, look, that could be on the chopping block because people are pulling out their budgets and making budget cuts. They may say, I don't need pest. This is a $70 every quarter, $100 every quarter, or $70 a month. I need to cut that. And then we messaged and basically said, you need your family is making all their meals at home. Restaurants haven't opened up. You have more trash in your home. It's spring and it's summertime, and bugs and rodents are going to come into your home. You owe it to your family to keep them safe, to keep high immunity, to not bring disease and pests into your home. Our technicians will wear masks, face guards, gloves. We'll make sure your dogs are kept safe. Like we did all of this crazy messaging around these themes. And we saw between a 2 and 4x. We also, by the way, we always do this. We also ran an A/B test at the same time with the old typical spring ads where we always have had success for them. Mm-hmm. And we saw a 2 to 4x higher return on the safety, helping others trust message in April and May. And now we're pivoting them more on safety. And we're pivoting them to different, like It just depends. If you're in total lockdown, like you're in New York or New Jersey, you sort of still get those three themes. If you're in Georgia or Florida, you're going to get more of a safety theme now. So it just depends. We're seeing so many divisions now in the messaging and the segments because of where every economy is.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And so how do you, as this continues and grows and moves forward, how do you pivot as it pivots? Like, when do you know when to switch your messaging again? Or should we not even worry about that right now?
I will tell you that everything's changing month to month. And so what we've done is, obviously, we invested $25,000 per survey. This is the third. We just put out our third survey. And if you want, you can go to winbigmedia.com and just click on the COVID-19 research data and research tab. No opt-ins, no funnel, no emails, no nothing. Just download it for free. And we're monitoring this month to month. What worked for 60 days from the end of March to the end of May is different than how we're positioning clients in the month of June. And so with the protests bringing out, we're monitoring all this stuff. But right now, safety has held steady. The messaging around safety has held steady for 3 months. And so I feel like it's going to hold steady, even as it could be one of 5 messages you use. I don't think it's going to go away. Right now, it's a leading indicator message. Whether it's a leading indicator in 2 months, I'll find out. I'm happy to tell you guys. I just don't know right now.
Yeah, so you're coming back on the show in 2 months when everything changes, and we can have this conversation again.
Sure.
It's one of those things that I think as business owners, you always play that game. And like you said, a lot of times when this is happening, you get super scared. I've been fortunate enough that my business hasn't taken a hit, so I've been able to go in and, like I said, launch this mastermind and continue to grow that and all the other things. But what's it look like to go on the offensive? Because the realistic side is you work with large corporations with large budgets. So what does it look like for the entrepreneur who's doing, a couple $100,000 a year? How do they go all in? Do they just do the same thing but on a smaller scale? Like, what are they looking at?
Yeah, a lot of, if you go to, we have a 5-step system. This is, by the way, I'm writing my next book. And to answer your question, the name of the book is called Undefeated, the secret formula that elects presidents and will grow your business in any economy. And that secret formula, here you go. It's right here. It's first, you have to understand your consumers. You need to know what they think and what they feel. You need to do a deep dive into that. So I believed in that message so much that I went out with this partnership that I have in the largest data analytics and AI collection company in America. And I developed an exclusive partnership with them. And I overlay all of our clients' customer data or client data. We do B2B. Or if it's a new company and a startup, we do a lookalike audience. Or we can put a pixel on a website and track movements of everybody that comes to the website. And then we'll track those movements for 60 days in the past because we can get their IP addresses. And then we track their movements 30 days in the future. Not what they say, what they do, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so once we have that, we now know what we need to do. So our second step in everything we do is we develop a strategic data-backed marketing plan. I'm telling you, if you're a business owner out there right now and you don't have the money, this is what you should do. You got to look at data, customer data, whatever. There are other ways of doing this. There are a million other ways to get data. It doesn't have to be as sophisticated as what I have. Ours, we charge $5,000 for, but not everybody has that kind of money, right? And by the way, our Fortune 200 companies, they look at so many different segments of people from 20 to 25, women, men, so we charge them hundreds of thousands for this data. It's the same data, right? But then you got to take that data and find alignment with your outcomes and produce a strategic plan, not a bunch of tactics. If I hear another marketer out there running around saying you got to run Facebook ads, when the data says their customer base isn't on Facebook, right? Like, it drives me nuts. Like, I did work for an Instagram influencer, but she sold hair care products. She had hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. She built a business, a hair care product company on this Instagram platform, right? And she said, hey, I want to go into Facebook next. And we said, well, let's figure out what your customers want. So we overlaid her customer base. And when the data came back, it said that Facebook was the fourth performing platform because we're knowing where these people go.
Right.
We're finding out what they care about based on their purchasing decisions. We're finding out where their platform, what social media platforms they're going on because we're tracking their online behavior. She was about to invest all this money into Facebook. It was the fourth performing platform. Do you know what number one was?
TikTok.
No. No. Instagram was number two. Number one was Pinterest.
Wow.
So why not invest your marketing dollars into where your customers are and develop a plan around that? So no more tactics. Be strategic and let all your tactics flow into that overall outcome and strategy. Our third step is that we take that data and we rebrand the company in a way that the customer makes a connection when they find your brand. Whether it's the videos you put out, whether it's your website, whatever it is, have an alignment. So if that customer finds you, they go to your website and they go, oh yeah, I like those guys. For our pest control company, people aren't buying the pest control company, Justin, because they have a great story to tell. No, they want their bugs dead. That's all. But when they go Google, I need a pest control company in my area, they're going to get a menu of 50 companies. They're going to click on the top 3. So obviously your search place is really important, right? When they go to those 3, what's the difference that makes the difference for your brand? If everybody's saying the same thing, what are you saying differently? That's what the data tells us. That's what we do with our all of our pest control companies we work with. The fourth step is we do a shit ton of A/B testing. We just A/B test everything to figure out, and I'm not saying everything generally. I'm saying we take what was in the data, the messages we found would work in the data, and we test them. And we'll test typically 5 to 10 messages, and we always find 1 to 2 that just shoot through the roof, and we don't know exactly why, but it works because the data told us this. But what we're seeing in the conversions is a higher factor. And then from that point, we say, let's go find new customers. Let's convert get old customers to repurchase again. And we launch out a real marketing campaign with real dollars now that we've eliminated risk and brought certainty into the process. That's what I would recommend everybody do is that 5-step process.
That's awesome.
By the way, that process is what almost all of us do in everyday life on almost all decisions. And in fact, sports teams do this to win championships. What is your favorite NFL team? Don't say the Eagles.
You know it's the Eagles.
All right, so it's the Eagles. All right, so when the Philadelphia Eagles play a game on Sunday, all right, they come back Monday. The first thing they do is study the game tape of their past performance and of their future opponent, correct?
Right.
What are they doing? They're looking at the data.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing, the coaches and everybody then puts in what? A game plan, a strategic plan. Third, all week long, the owners of the Philadelphia Eagles or the stadium clean the stadium, get the jerseys cleaned on the players. The brand gets to be back on point. They put, the restaurants in the stadium are going to be ready on Sunday. Like everything about the brand has to be on point. The fourth step, what do the players do all week long?
Practice.
Testing, right? They're testing the plays from the data that they found on Monday or Sunday to see which ones will work the best. Then when they do that, they go and play the game on Sunday. It's the same thing. Everybody does it. My doctors use it to help me be healthier. Trial lawyers do it to win cases. Venture capitalists use it to sell their companies and make a ton of money. Over and over and over again, I've analyzed this. I'm just like no one's ever thought about this, but these are the 5 steps. The one industry I can't seem to find that won't do this, is marketers. Like they go run Facebook ads, or let's A/B test first before we know what the data says, or they just launch a big marketing campaign. Or let's start with your brand first before you know what the customers think. They will get this thing all out of whack and not the right formula or not the right steps. And what I'm employing businesses to do is to follow the data and use this effectively.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's so in your face, and yet people, I mean, I never thought of it that way, right? That's why you're writing the book, because not many people are thinking of it that way. So when does the book come out?
Well, it's supposed to come out at the beginning of 2021, but we had COVID kind of we have to address this. This is weird and new, and business, you can't ignore that in what you're doing. So we're working through all the success and case studies that we've implemented through COVID. And so hopefully spring or summer of 2021 a year.
Yeah. And so what was the subtitle as well?
Title's Undefeated, the secret formula that elects presidents and will grow your business in any economy.
Yeah. So one thing we didn't talk about is the marketing that you've done, in politics, and you've won over 200 campaigns, right?
1,200. That's good. It's good. 1,200. It's a little bit more, but yeah.
I was close. It's been a couple of years since you've been on the show.
That's good. It's good.
So when you look at that 1,200 campaigns, how does this thing that's happening right now, COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, protest, how does it affect what's going to happen in politics, whether it be on a large scale or a small scale? And I don't even look, I'm asking this question without knowing your involvement now, if at all.
So it's sort of a fluid movement right now. I don't think you're going to see real action out of political campaigns until late summer, early fall. People are assessing what's going on, and they don't want to get out in front of things that could hurt them more than help them. You're probably seeing this on the presidential campaign right now. Joe Biden is still in his basement, right. and Trump is not. Trump's Trump. So, I mean, say what, it wouldn't matter what you think. I mean, Trump's Trump, right? It's a fact, not an opinion. And so, but there's not a lot of movement from his campaign. And I think people are just sitting back going, we need to see where things play out. I will tell you this. If the economy roars back and there is some sort of treatment to COVID-19 or the real close to a promise of a vaccine or a take this shot and it'll reduce the symptoms of coronavirus, I think Trump wins re-election. I think if the economy retracts from what we've seen over the last few weeks, which is 2.5 million new jobs, I think if the economy retracts in the fall, if COVID has a second spike, I think that greatly advantages Joe Biden in this moment.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I wouldn't. I don't really know, to be honest. Like I pay attention, but I'm not overly involved in politics. And so it's one of those things where it's like, it's interesting to kind of see how that'll all play out. But I think I imagine how Trump is, and he knows how to stay in front and how to stay in. I think we talked about this before when we spoke before about how, look, the more you're out in front of somebody, you win. Right. If that name pops up more, you win every single time, no matter what the news is connected to. And I think that's what's going to happen at the end of the day. And I don't mean to go down a political avenue with you.
Well, we're not talking policy and we're not talking partisanship. We're just talking about the horse race, right?
Right.
The data tells us another thing that's really interesting on the race. I think 70% of Trump supporters are supporting him in 2020 because they're supporting him and his policies. Something like 30% of Biden supporters are supporting him for himself and his policies. 70% of Democrats just want to beat Trump. Like that's right. The only reason. They don't care. You could literally put a goat in an office and they'd support the goat, right?
Right.
And what I've typically seen, we saw this in 2012 when it was Romney versus Obama. Republicans didn't really care for Romney. They wanted to beat Obama, and Obama's constituency and the Democrats wanted to vote for Obama at 80% clip. I mean, a massive clip. That's a huge number in our business. And what happened? Obama won it walking away. And so I'm not saying that right now. Boy, we know everything changes every 5 minutes. Everybody's going to be outraged about something. When the fall comes, Biden is going to say Trump killed 150,000 people with COVID. Trump's going to say Biden has dementia. I'm just telling you how it's going to play out. I can tell you those are the two messages that are going to happen. And the underlying factors of jobs and the spike of coronavirus are going to play into this. And then we're going to see how it plays out. But it's a fascinating case study.
It really is. And I'm interested to see what you come out with at the end, because look, your approach and your tactic right now that you take into business it works the same in politics, right? But it all depends on if the team understands that and the people putting in, the day-to-day action to make sure that they win every single time, which is crazy. But is there anything else to this conversation? Obviously, it's been packed with information. It's been packed with a ton of stuff, actionable things. Is there anything else that you want to add or you feel is important for entrepreneurs and business owners to know right now?
Yeah, if you're in one of the disruptive industries, you got to pivot really, really quickly. And some of this is obvious. Happy to walk through. I've written a lot about this. You're certainly more than welcome to link into some of those disruptive articles I've written. What we're seeing in the data now is the travel and transportation industry is going to be disrupted until there's a vaccine. Airbnb came out, and I've said Airbnb hotels are in deep trouble.
Right.
And so this article came out today, and it said Airbnb has hit a massive spike of bookings. But if you look at it, it's all local bookings. It's within a state. And people are okay getting in their car and driving to their vacation. They're not interested in getting in an airplane and driving to vacation. Not everybody, but what if the industry is cut by 20%? That's massive. People just don't understand that. If 80% come back and 20% go away, that's massive. So we've seen that I would say the live events business is in deep trouble.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know that you
good.
have a live events vertical, but it's true. Sports, it's not this, like, we need sports, right? But people going to games, like, I live in the South, so Southerners don't give a damn. They want to go to the college football game. They don't care if they get COVID and die. They want to go to the game. But most people don't. Like, they go, nope, I'm not going to go, or they're going to be 6 feet apart and you're going to have 30 or 50% capacity. That's massive. We talked about this before we went on air. I have a speech in Las Vegas that got rebooked and is now in September. How many people go to that speech? How many attend? I mean, it was going to be like 5,000 automobile dealers. Do they really go to Vegas now? Are they going to feel safe sitting in a closed-in environment?
Right. Well, I'll say this.
I'm being booked by Gary Vaynerchuk's Speakers Bureau now, and I had a speech in April, and that got punted till next April for the massage industry. Right.
Right.
It was going to be 5,000 people. Is that going to happen? I don't know.
So my goal, I'll tell you this. My goal this year was to sell 300 tickets to my event, double it from last year. Right when all the news started to hit, I was at about 170 sold. So nobody's really bought a ticket in the last 3 months. Like, everything shut down, and for obvious reasons.
Sure.
2 people asked for refunds, and the rest are still excited to come at this point.
That's cool.
Now, it could be the community that was built year one. It could be, hey, we trust you as the guy who leads this thing, or whatever. I also heard, and I don't know what the thing is, but I was talking to the guy who runs Podfest. Apparently down in Orlando, they're holding Comic-Con at the end of July, which is like a ridiculous amount of people.
Sure. But how many what if 30% don't come this year?
Right.
How much will that affect local businesses, restaurants, Disney World, all the theme parks, not to mention Comic-Con. So
yeah,
everybody's affected by this.
It's really that chunk of like who forever feels unsafe, and what's that going to kind of be long term. Sorry, I didn't mean to disrupt you. I just wanted to add that.
No, that's great.
On that live event.
Restaurants, it's very clear now. I predicted this in March. They are screwed. The restaurant industry reminds me of the housing industry in 2008. Way too many people were able to buy houses in 2008. No money down. They bought 10 houses. They rented it all out. They were making all this money. It crash happened. There was a retraction. For 20 years, we've had so many restaurants open around the country. So many restaurants have opened everywhere. I know you're friends with people in the restaurant industry, Justin. And where I live in Florida, Emerald Lagasse lives here, and he has a restaurant here. He hasn't opened up any of his restaurants because he realized that at a quarter of a capacity, he's losing probably more money than he has reopening.
Right.
By not reopening. So that industry is really, and then what is the second order consequences of, let's say, brick and mortar retail, which is also going to take a hit? Well, it's the commercial real estate industry. They're in big, big trouble. Huge. People now work from home on Zoom for 3 or 4 months now. And a lot of business owners, and again, Not all businesses. Well, what if 25% of the market goes, hold on, why am I spending $20,000 a month on rent when we did great during the coronavirus on Zoom?
Right.
And so I don't need physical space anymore. And you got retail that's retracting, and you got restaurants that's retracting. So I am of the opinion that, like, man, in about 6 months, go buy you some cheap real estate, commercial real estate, because it's going to be really cheap, right?
Right.
It's going to be really cheap, and people should think about that. But it's going to be retracted by a lot. And then finally, I'd say this: we're going to see. We've seen this over and over again. I just talked about this Airbnb. The people are finding safety and using in the local economy. So even if you're Uber, you should say, we'll create safety for your rides. By the way, people do not want to take Ubers, or public transportation is going to be massively disrupted because people are scared shitless to go on a bus right now, or a train, or anything, right? But even Uber should be like, we're employing people in the local economy. Everybody should try to use their safety message with a local angle, because local is trust and safety inherently, right? And so you're seeing this retraction away from a global economy into a local economy. And you have a window to take advantage of it. Trust me on this. What I'm telling everybody right now, 99.999999999% of businesses have no idea about safety, local, trust, all of these messages that work right now. They don't know. They have no idea. Either they're paralyzed in fear, or they're running on the old messages that worked for all these years that they're like, why are they working? They can't figure it out. They're going to know. They're going to know soon. You're already seeing, if you're seeing Coca-Cola do it, you're seeing Facebook do it, you're seeing all these big data companies, Google doing it with all their ads. It's because they know something that maybe you don't. And I'm looking at the largest data company in America and partnering with them and saying, this is what we see.
Yeah, and it's so true. And like when this whole thing first started, and I know a couple local retail owners and stuff like that, and there was no pivot. And I was like, how are you like this? You're not just going to sit around and wait. Like, we don't know how long this is going to be. You have to pivot now, whether it's your messaging and branding, or the way you're delivering it, or something needs to change. And nobody changed. Like, I watched all these businesses in my town stay completely shuttered up, and you couldn't even reach them. Like, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. And from that standpoint till even now as things are opening back up, it's okay. How do I grab back the market? And this is exactly what this episode's all about. You go out there and re-grab the market. Like, it's a no-brainer for sure, man. This has been incredible information, other than you telling me that live events are going to suffer terribly. It's been wonderful. But dude, thank you so much.
Well, look at our third study. I mean, it's across the board. If you're looking at all the numbers, most consumers, but I mean, at a large clip, need to know that it's safe to go back to sporting events, concerts, any kind of live event, theaters. I have a buddy of mine who's the 2-time Tony Award winner, writer, producer on Broadway, and he's in deep trouble right now. Yeah. And the Broadway's not coming back till 2021. I mean, I guess maybe it'll come back at 20% capacity, but who makes money then?
Yeah, nobody's making money at that point. Nobody can get paid, which is kind of the scary part. And, again, we have to pivot. You have to make the adjustments that you possibly can and stay in front of people, even if you're not servicing them at this point.
That's right.
I mean, it's super scary, but I think there's hope long term. So I was supposed to go to see Michael Bublé a week after this whole thing shut down. I was pissed, by the way. But so that's now not until next March. So it was pushed back a whole year. And so you wonder, like, those venues, like, how are they going to stay open? Because they're not making any money.
Right. And by the way, 99% of musicians are not Michael Bublé. Right. How do they're just going to go away, right? It's going to create a new market when things start back. New musicians will come to the fore, but right now it's just disrupting a lot of different things. And I would tell you real quick, Justin, the best way to look at this is about 20% of the economy has retracted, lost their jobs, may come back in a different form. About 60% of the economy is just trying to break even. Like, let me just get through this month to month, what I got to figure out. And another 20%, even though I'm now beginning to believe it's more like 15%, and then the survivability kind of moves up that number. But the last 15 to 20% is really people that have had exponential growth. The food delivery services, the people that went online years ago and made their business an online priority. Zoom, Squadcast, people like, companies like that. And I mean, there's a million more that I'm not even getting to, but that's those are the ones that are having exponential growth right now.
Yeah. It's just absolutely crazy. So how do people go and get this data so they can look over it and really kind of soak it all in?
Yeah, I'm sure you'll link to it in the show notes, but it'll be go to winbigmedia.com. Click on the front page tab that says COVID-19 Consumer Research. You will find all 3 data reports, the one from the end of March when we first went in lockdown, a month later after we'd been in lockdown, and then the one we just released now that the economy is opening back up, and we're looking at that. We're going to keep coming up. We'll have a 4th one hopefully at the beginning of July. And then we're going to have a huge, massive study at the end of July. I also have linked on that page sort of my analysis to the data, because people will look at raw data and go, I don't know how I'm supposed to read this, right? So I've written all my analysis down there on my Medium page. And frankly, I'm providing all this, and you could subscribe you can go to phillipstutts.com and subscribe to my list. As you know, because you've been a subscriber for a few years, I do not spam you. It's one email every 2 weeks on my take and what I'm seeing through data and marketing. And I'm just here to provide value. And so you can go subscribe there and get the reports exclusively and first before I put them out in the rest of the world. So that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, highly recommend subscribing. There's actually only 3 people that I consistently open emails from. You're one of them. Actually, Mike Kim is another one. A guy named Doug Morneau. Value.
I like Doug.
Yeah, Doug.
I've been on his show.
Nice. Doug's awesome. Doug is really, really. He was actually a part of my event this last year. We were just chatting the other day. We're both big cigar smokers, so we were chatting about that the other day. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and doing what you do, because honestly, you're changing the life for these organizations and these businesses that you work with, because you're the person who keeps them alive, man. So just thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I think if I could leave one last thing for people listening here, it's this. In March, on March 5th, I wrote down a question in my sort of journal. And I had to answer the question for 1 hour without looking up. How do I want to be remembered a year from now? So the fact is that we've had, as of today, 41,219 downloads of this data. Wow. 41,219 downloads of this data since the end of March. And it's all been for free. And it absolutely came out of me asking the question in early March, how do I want to be remembered a year from now? And I would challenge everybody here to write down that question and answer it for yourself. And it sure does take you out of fear really quickly.
Yeah, I love it. And if you want to know what he means by keep your head down for an hour, if you go back and listen to the last time he was on the show,
did we talk about it?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, thinking time.
I love Think Time, and since you and I have spoke, I do it. Like I have a chair that's away from my computer that I sit down, and it's just Think Time, and it's helped me so much get clear on exactly what it is I need and want and how to do it. It's a game changer.
It's the hacking tool that billionaires use and they don't talk about. And I didn't come up with it. I just do it and it works. So yeah, do it. It really does work.
Well, to me, you came up with it. So that's
I'm glad I can pass it along.
Phillip, thank you so much, man.
Hey, honored. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.